This is Rudy Giuliani back again with Rudy's Common Sense, and maybe this is my favorite. Because this is, I have to tell you, I believe on the merits, I'm sure you'll dispute it with me, my favorite candidate of 2022, the guy who came out of nowhere and is now leading about just about every poll, and if he isn't leading it, he's within 2%. And his debate performances, I'm not going to take anything away from anybody else except Zeldin, who was a disaster. But you have to say uniformly in all three debates, he was by far the best. And that isn't me. Those are, lots of reporters with, one may have been better than the other. When you look at all of them, here's what he did. He stayed largely away from the name calling, which I attribute all to Zeldin. I do not blame this on the other two guys. They were just defending themselves. And boy, they defended themselves and Andrew, and they pummeled them off the stage. The last image I have of Zeldin is walking off the stage being booed by an internal GOP crowd right next to the county chairman that tried to crown him and they couldn't get the crowd out. He got booed off the stage. Andrew, how did this all get started? I mean, here you were working honestly, working 24 hours a day for Donald Trump for 4 years. You were into some of the most interesting things that the president was involved in. He's been your friend for 25 years, almost as long as he's been my friend. He has a great affection for you. We all know. I know that. And he put you in some of his most sensitive situations. And as things went on, opioid, CCP virus, so many different things. And then, of course, you work with me to some extent when I needed help. Yeah. So you leave the White House. Everybody very upset. Everybody very disappointed one way or the other, right? Of course. We had to give up the White House to what we thought, turns out, worse than we thought. How did you come about this idea? You were on you were on Newsmax, doing very well. What happened?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say that, like you, this is probably, of all of the interviews that I've done over the last year plus, it's probably my favorite host, I would say, for an interview here. I'm a little biased, I will admit.
Me too.
A little biased on that one. Look, this is very simple. My wife and I talked this over. You remember the first time that I came over here and approached it with you. And we basically said, after leaving the White House, working 4 years for President Trump, the first thing we did was we came back to New York, got settled in and said, you know what? We need to spend a couple of days here just figuring things out. We went down to Florida. We spent a little time with President Trump, but more than anything, it was to take a little vacation with my wife because 4 years in the White House, you cancel a lot of vacation plans. And I happen to love my wife very much.
You have every reason to love your wife very much because you're the lucky one.
100%. I have a face for radio, and she by
she's got
has
a face
the looks
for the
and the
movies.
brain.
Yeah,
so I really don't know what I bring to the relationship.
No, you bring a lot, Andrew.
But
what
what I can tell you is this. We looked at it and decided that for, God willing, the next 50 years of our lives, we need to do everything we could to fight for the state of New York and for democracy in America. You have to remember that my wife, your daughter-in-law,
my
you call her your daughter.
I sure do. She's entitled to that.
But you got to remember, she comes from Lithuania, lived the first couple years of her life under Soviet oppression, and her mother remembers, God rest her soul, her father being taken from their farmland and sent to Siberia. When she hears that socialism and we're flirting with communism in this country, she understands probably better than I could even ever understand how important it is that we fight against this. And for us, we decided the most important thing to do was to serve the public. And for me, that was figuring out how we save New York State. And that's how this started. And that's how now, just a couple of days until Election Day on June 28th, we are right there in a neck-and-neck race. I started off the first month, and New York has 62 counties. For those who are watching who are not in the state of New York, I decided within the first month to go to all 62 counties and make sure we were building our grassroots. Now, this is very important. I've seen candidates before decide to go right out and preach and talk to New Yorkers, talk at New Yorkers. I thought it was very important that we talk and listen with New Yorkers. And I think that's built this strong candidacy to this point. And that's why we see a race that either has us leading by up to 10 points or within 2 points, mattering on what you trust with the polls. But I think it's developed a much stronger grassroots than any of the other candidates. And look, the truth is, and I recommend this for anybody who's interested in getting into politics and wants to be somebody who can really serve the public. When you go out there, and I learned this from you, I learned this from Donald Trump, you can't talk to people. You have to talk with people. You have to listen. Make sure that the message is on point, and make sure that the message truly serves the interests of those who you want to represent. And having grown up in the Giuliani household and hearing this day in and day out, watching New York City's transformation, it inspired me. You know, I got to see truly when you have a leader with a great team coming into a situation that needs change. I got to see one of the greatest transformations, not just in New York City history, not just in New York State history, but in American history and maybe in world history too. And that's really what inspired me on this, because I see it's possible. Look, I would contest this. There's so many people that think that New York is in a place where our best days are behind it. Well, I think if you would have read Time magazine and The Rotting Apple in 1991, you'd have probably as many people that would say that. There was some guy named Giuliani, I'm looking at him right now, who came in and said, you know what? We can get the city under control. And the fact that you were able to do it really within 18 months to a place where you had people who said, you know what? New York City's best days are behind it. And then really by 1996, the safest large city in the country. And even think about this, right? The Bloomberg years, crime continued to go down.
Great job.
And even the first couple of years of de Blasio, your policies were
so
strong.
He couldn't ruin it.
It took a second term for him to
it took
ruin it right there.
It took Black Lives Matter. It took the progressive Democrats. It took Cuomo,
that's exactly
Hochul,
right.
Biden,
so I really
and
think,
the pro-criminal
I really think
agenda.
we can get this under control within a year to 18 months.
You're right.
We make sure we end bail reform. We fire district attorneys that are Soros-funded, like Alvin Bragg, like Gonzalez in Kings County, Brooklyn. And we fully fund our police to the tune of a $5 billion pot.
This is not a brain surgery. Yeah. When you make it impossible, you can't do it. You have the energy and the strength and the ability to go out and persuade people. Do you know what a strength that is? General Flynn, when he endorsed you, touched on that. He said, Andrew has the unique leadership ability to save this state today. Zeldin, who worked for him in the Army, and this is a hell of an indictment, he said, Zeldin, a guy he commanded, doesn't. Yeah. And that's what you've got.
Yeah, I got some big breaking news, and I want everybody to know, I want your entire audience to know that I am standing strongly to get behind Andrew Giuliani to be the next governor of the great state of New York. Andrew is exactly the kind of fighter that we need right now. He's got superb leadership skills. I've had the opportunity to get to know Andrew, speak with him at numerous times. He's got the leadership. He's got the backbone. I particularly like the fact that he's pro-life. I thought in the debate the other night, when the other three candidates went into like 2 and 3 minute diatribes about whether or not they were pro-life or not, Andrew's answer was right on the money. He said, I am pro-life, period. The other thing, and I think it's more important than anything right now, is that he is so pro-America, and he's exactly the kind of leader that we need running the great state of New York. Everybody knows that New York City especially, is in a tailspin. Talk about the economy. Jesus, the city of New York, the state of New York. We need Andrew Giuliani to be the next governor. One of the other little tidbits that we're looking at is a possible rally in one of a couple of places up there in the very near future. Whether we haven't decided exactly where, we're looking up in the Buffalo, Rochester area, or maybe down in Long Island, or maybe both. But more to follow on that. But General retired Michael Flynn fully, wholeheartedly, and strongly endorse Andrew Giuliani to be the next governor of the state of New York.
And from the beginning, it's been, what can I do? How does it work? Your questions of me and 5,000 other people. So tell us now where we stand. What do we get? What do we get? First, as let's think of selfish Republicans. What do we get as a Republican candidate if the day after the primary, Andrew Giuliani is the nominee? What kind of Republican candidate we get? And how the hell are you going to win in a blue state that hates you can't like, I could never win in New York. Even Abraham Lincoln didn't win New York City. Do you know that? First thing I'm faced with.
Well, you won it twice.
Yeah, but the first and second time I was told, even Abraham Lincoln didn't win. Only 2 people have won in 100 years. How are you going to win? How are you going to win?
Free speech, religious liberty, Second Amendment. Across the country, our constitutional rights are under constant attack, and it's only getting worse by the day, which is why I am proud to support Patriot Mobile. They're not just America's only Christian conservative cell phone provider. They are one of the few companies fighting back. They offer the same nationwide coverage as the major carriers. So you get the same great service, plus the peace of mind that your money is combating the left's attempt to silence us. Patriot Mobile has plans to fit any budget, and their 100% US-based customer support team provides exceptional customer support. Patriot Mobile shares our values and supports organizations fighting for religious freedom, constitutional rights, the sanctity of life, and our veteran and first responders. Go to patriotmobile.com/Rudy or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation with the offer code RUDY. Veterans and first responders save even more, so make the switch today. Between the left, the media, and the rhinos, we need to fight back. PatriotMobile.com/Rudy. PatriotMobile.com/Rudy or call 972-PATRIOT.
Well, first off, I think from a leadership perspective and what you touched on before, I think it's through osmosis growing up with you as a father, seeing that change with my mother. I think looking honestly at growing up with the NYPD and seeing them and seeing all those men and women that put themselves on the line and working 4 years for President Donald Trump. You can see men and women that come in that want to come into change and are able to do it. And you could see the leadership in particular. I would look at this, though, specifically. When we talk about how we actually win New York, I think it's very simple. You have so many independents, moderates, non-affiliateds, and even some traditional Democrats that are looking at New York City and New York State and saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe that the nuts are running the asylum right now, which is really the truth. We need to make sure we focus on policies that are going to improve people's quality of life, that we bring back stop, question, and frisk, that we bring back broken windows. And I have to tell you, even those limousine liberals on the Upper West Side that may not want to admit it at the cocktail parties.
I hear it, Andrew.
They go to the voting booth and they say, who is going to actually make sure that they protect New York that's going to do that? And that's us by far. It's not going to be crime wave Kathy Hochul. This is a woman who at her State of the State speech would not mention bail reform one time, did not even mention crime until the 18th minute of her speech. She mentioned 9 other issues first, including 17 different genders before she got onto crime. That's not somebody who's going to come and protect New York. That's going to be somebody who continues this epic crime wave around this state. In Andrew Giuliani, they're going to get a leader who every single day asks of himself and of his staff, what can we do today to make New York the safest state in the country? We don't have enough time to go through the $220 billion budget that is New York, but for comparison, $220 billion in the state of New York, $98 billion in the state of Florida. Florida has 1 million more people, over 1 million more people than New York. It's no wonder why New York State leads the country in net out migration, and Florida leads the state in net in migration of U.S. citizens. And that is because we are wasting taxpayer dollars here. And what we're doing is, and you could see it from New York City where you see major financial companies, you could see it all around the state where you see farmers, you see small business owners that are leaving for the Floridas, for the Texases, for the Tennessees of the world. Why is that? Because these are states that do not overburden our businesses with overregulation. Remember, one of the promises that President Trump made, and actually this came right from Rudy Giuliani, was for every regulation he'd sign into law, he would cut 2. One of the things I had the opportunity to work on.
That was one of your first assignments.
And it was honestly one of the most successful ones, to be honest. That number by the time he walked out of the White House was over 8-1. And that's why we saw record unemployment in the country by early 2020.
Even before tax reduction, the regulation reduction got us one of our strongest economies ever.
Absolutely. And here's the reason. So we talk about action plans on day one. Obviously, tax reform is going to be one of those battles with the Assembly and the state Senate, which I look forward to having, right? That's something that comes out of the legislative branch, and the governor certainly has a lot of sway and pull, and I will certainly use my leverage to do that. But from a regulatory reform standpoint, most of this comes right out of the executive branch. So you literally can start this on day one. This is not something that you need to sit down and go over and try to make a pitch directly to constituents. This is something that says, I have the governor's bully pulpit. I'm going to start cutting regulation right now and send a very clear message to New Yorkers that we are open for business again in the great state of New York.
Now, you see the energy you are observing right now, the energy you're observing, that's the energy that makes it possible to answer the following question. Andrew, you'll never get it passed. Hochul can't even get bail reform passed with a Democratic Senate. How are you as a Republican or the other guys? How are they going to pass bail reform, tax reduction, regulatory reduction where you need legislative approval? They won't do it for a Democrat. How are they going to do it for you?
Well, the other guys, I don't know if they will, because I think they'll get twisted and turned so much by Albany. Look, I think this is very clear, and I think this is what sets us apart. I know exactly what Albany is going to throw at me. I saw it with Rudy Giuliani in City Hall. I saw it with Donald Trump with a absurd investigation for 2.5 years that was based off a political document. I know that they're going to be coming for me. And here's the thing. I don't care, because the truth is I need to do everything I possibly can for the 19.5 million New Yorkers to make their quality of life better. Not to get the approval of the New York Times, not to get the approval of the Times Union. I'd say this, and I'd paraphrase Ronald Reagan here. If the New York Times likes the job that I'm doing, then I'm going to be doing a crap job. So I need to make sure that
they never like what Ronald Reagan or Donald Trump did. The American people, all the black people that were working under Donald Trump more than ever before, kind of liked the job, but the Times didn't seem to like the fact that so many black people were working.
But it's utilizing the leverage that is the governor's bully pulpit. It's going directly into the districts of state senators, assembly members who have said, we're going to keep cashless bail out there, when we can just look at the data and the numbers. And I've made this point before, but it's so true, right? There are narratives on all sides, right? On the right, on the left, with even socialists, they have narratives. You need to look at the data and say, are the narratives fictional or are they true? When you look at bail reform, since it was signed into law over 3 years ago in April of 2019 by Andrew Cuomo, and you look at the violent crime rates in New York, all across the state, and you alluded to this before, they have spiked all around New York State. Binghamton, Rochester, as you mentioned last year, both had the most murders ever in recorded history. This year, Rochester's on pace to surpass that. As governor, we need to do everything we possibly can to make sure that we get rid of bail reform and that, honestly, we end this war on our police. We've been told fantastic lies. That actually, I want to say, fantastic lies is not an original statement that I made. This is something I learned when I was at Duke from the lacrosse team, when the captain went out there for the first time. They addressed the media a couple months after they were wrongfully accused and said, you have been told fantastic lies. Well, the truth is, we've been told fantastic lies in this country about our police. We've been told that they're part of the problem. You know better than I do, better than anybody, that they are the nucleus to the solution in making New York the greatest state in the country.
There was no question during the 3 debates that some people did awful and some people did well, but you were the only one that was there, very, very sharply with your answers. General Flynn points out when you asked about abortion, each one of them gave a 4-minute answer, and you said, I'm pro-life.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Andrew, the only way you get by and change this country is by shaking the hell out of Albany.
Yeah.
They're ready to make adjustments. You're ready to do a revolution.
I learned this, honestly, from you. I learned this from Donald Trump. You can obfuscate as much as you want, and that's typical politician. That's your flip-flopper. That's your Romneys. That's your Zeldins of the world. Or you can be direct with voters. And here's the thing about it, right? It's not always that everybody's going to agree with everything you have to say. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday that I respect. I didn't agree with everything they said, but they were honest with me and I was honest with them. And that ends up breeding respect. To me, I can promise you this, whether you like everything I say, whether you don't like everything I say, you're going to get somebody who's genuine and honest with you in Andrew Giuliani.
We're going to take a short break now, and we're going to go back and contrast that with the usual product of the Albany swamp. This is Rudy Giuliani, and we'll be back right after this break. Think your homeowner's insurance covers home title fraud? Think again. And neither does your common identity theft program. The FBI calls home title fraud one of the fastest growing crimes, which is why you need to go to HomeTitleLock.com, America's leader in home title protection. Here's the problem. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. And the deeds to all of our homes now are online. In minutes, a criminal can find and forge your name off the deed to your home and refile as the new owner. Like Jeff, who spent a fortune in legal fees after a thief forged himself onto the deed to Jeff's home and took out loans. Jeff didn't have Home Title Lock then. He does now. Or Deborah, who thought our common identity theft service would protect her. Then a criminal got onto the deed to a home and had her evicted. Deborah has Home Title Lock now. HomeTitleLock.com is your peace of mind, and the deed to your home is protected. Visit HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com. This is Rudy Giuliani back again with the interview of Andrew Giuliani, who I'd say certainly the majority of the polls is the leading Republican candidate for governor, and certainly a very competitive candidate for governor. Primaries are hard to judge. It's all about turnout. You want Andrew Giuliani? You go out and vote. You know what I'm proudest of him about? 100%. I'm going to about to cry now, the kind of father he is.
Well, thank you.
Man, I don't care. I want you to win, Andrew. I want you to win more for the state than for you. In fact, I didn't want you to run. You know that. I wanted you to do television, finance, have a nice life. This is murder, what they do to you. But then I realized I was being selfish, and I've never been selfish with myself.
Yeah.
And I mean this, and you can believe it or not, you got a unique talent, and we need it. We need this state. This state doesn't elect you. It's not going to get saved. It's just like if they didn't elect me at the time they elect me. New York, you know where New York City would be now? I mean, with all that's happening. But in any event, look, you had 3 debates. They were devastating. Now, I think there is a couple of clear things that emerged. The clearest of all is that, how do I say it any better than, Zeldin's a fraud. I mean, he's a complete, absolute fraud. Now, I'm going to play, just so you don't think I'm exaggerating. You can play a teeny little snippet because, look, I cross-examined some of the most famous liars in the world. This is a consummate liar. I want you to listen to this 29 seconds. And in 29 seconds, you can tell this guy wouldn't get hired by a used car salesman. Watch it.
Have you ever called President Trump's past statements racist?
I don't recall. It's the way that the person who's defining racism, that's how they end up calling President Trump's comments racist.
Donald Trump made a comment that is the textbook definition of a racist comment. Do you agree?
The way I subjectively define racism, I agree as well. Again, I'm not going to defend his tweet. It was ugly.
Now, Andrew, I don't know how he talks his way around that. I mean, he said, I get to define people who are racist, and then he said, I define Trump as a racist.
Look, for me, and this was certainly our strategy in talking about the debates, I thought it was so important to make sure that whatever personal differences I had with candidates, I focused on the issues, because the truth is we need to show that there was a plan starting on day one. But I thought it was so important also to point out that the person who's in second place to us, in Zeldin, has been somebody who's continually lied to New Yorkers.
Well, that's
and
not the first one.
You can choose somebody who said that President Trump made racist statements in the past, and then was with him when it was politically expedient, and then is running away from him, or somebody who's going to be honest with New Yorkers, who's going to be genuine, who always stands for the America first and strictly the New York first message, and that's me.
Andrew, you're running against 2 other people.
Yeah.
With the shakeup that took place in that debate, with him getting booed off the stage, with his biggest supporter in upstate New York who endorsed him 2 days before, writing dramatic articles about how he folded and he could not possibly be the governor. He stammered, he looked nervous, and then he got booed by his own supporters, the GOP people. So now you got 2 other guys. You have not said anything negative about them.
They're good guys.
Have they said anything negative about you?
No, not that I know of. So to me, I look at this very simply. New York saw somebody that was a flip-flopper in Lee, and they saw somebody who's going to be genuine and tell you the truth. Whether you like what I have to say, whether you don't like that you have to say, I'm going to tell you exactly what I believe and what I believe is best for New York. To me, I look at it this way, though. We need to make sure that we are focusing on the issues that are going to help save New York.
Are you willing to lay out, if I ask you maybe a couple of quick questions? I don't want to do one of these lightning round things like these idiots do. But if I lay out a few things and you tell me what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Will you do what I did, what Speaker Gingrich did? Will you promise you're going to get these things done or you're going to die trying?
Yes.
Okay? You're not.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I love you. You're not going to get them all done. All I want to see you do is die trying.
Yeah.
And when you come up for re-election, you get 4 or 6 of these done, you'll be one of the greatest governors.
Yeah.
So you're going to reduce crime.
Absolutely. That is the number one priority. And like I said, every day I will ask of myself and my staff, what are we going to do today to make New York a safer
And do
place?
you have already developed, 6-8 months ago, a plan for it?
Yes, we do.
This is not like Adams. You're coming in and 5 months later, you're still working on a plan.
And I touched on a couple of the major points, which is
There
firing rogue DAs.
are about 8 or 9. Just give us 1 or 2.
Firing rogue DAs. Alvin Bragg's a perfect example.
That wakes them
like
all
that.
up, by the way.
Yep. All those Soros-funded DAs, they hit the road on day one. $5 billion refunding of the police.
Nobody else is putting the money back. None of your opponents, Republican, Democrat, Hochul's spending that money so it goes to a husband on the stadium.
Bringing back proactive policing. That means stop, question, and frisk. That means broken windows. That means making sure that the war on cops ends. This needs to end.
Are any of your opponents aware of the fact that Eric Holder and Janet Reno have an approved stop, question, and frisk program you can put in effect the first day and the Justice Department can't touch you? Are they even close to knowing about it?
Maybe now because I mentioned in a debate.
They don't even seem interested, nor do they seem to know what to do with it. Yeah. I'm telling you, as an expert in reducing crime, it's going to take them 6 months to figure out what to do.
Right.
If you don't know that there's a stop, question, and frisk program, you can put it into effect right now, the day after you're in office, and the Justice Department won't touch it. By the way, it's going on in 40 different cities and states in the Justice Department. And we're getting murders and murders and murders. You go to cities in upstate New York, it shocks me, Andrew, when I go with you. Because when I was running, those places they kept the doors open at night.
They were amazing.
Rochester's got more crime than New York.
Yeah.
You're the only guy that knows that you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to. We have to. I mean, if we choose not to actually execute on what I believe is the preeminent issue, maybe of our time in the country, but certainly in the state of New York, we're going to continue to lead the country in out-migration. And people are going to go to places like Florida that are welcoming our police with open arms.
So who's the cops candidate?
Oh, I mean, it's Andrew Giuliani.
How many of them come up to you?
Oh, it's
I can't travel the highways without them stopping me.
As somebody who grew up with cops, it's probably my favorite thing is whenever I talk to.
You had 4 great uncles who were cops, and you had a great cousin that died in the line of duty, and you watch me with the cops constantly, and they took you to school to protect you. And you don't know about it much because I never told you, but I mean, you were threatened with death 4, 5, 6 times. The few times you knew about it, all you did was smile and play basketball with me in the backyard.
Well, look,
you got a pair of guts, Andrew.
Well,
a pair of you-know-what.
I learned courage from this guy right here.
You have a large surplus of that.
I would just say this. I know that there are true heroes, and it's one of the things that, and we haven't touched on this, but regarding the vaccination requirement in New York.
Vaccination and then being held liable. I want you to talk to that because it's so important.
I wasn't allowed in the first 2 debates because I chose not to get the shot. The other candidates immediately handed over their papers. I said, I'm not handing over my papers. First off, I don't have them. And secondly, I don't believe it's the right thing to do. When I think about New York's true heroes, our police, our firefighters, our nurses, look, I like watching Aaron Judge hit home runs. But the truth is, it shouldn't be Aaron Judge who gets an exemption when our firefighters, when our nurses, when our teachers are kicked to the curb for a health decision.
You think that would happen with Republicans?
On day one of a Giuliani administration, and this comes right out of the executive branch, it's not going to take the legislature. All of those COVID mandates go into the ash bin of history, and I will get all of these New Yorkers who lost their job because they took a stand for their health, their job back with back pay.
We can investigate Cuomo for killing old people?
100%.
We can investigate Hochul for slipping millions of dollars to a husband who has the concessions on the stadium in Buffalo. And the big scandal there is not her building the stadium. it's her husband's one of the biggest beneficiaries.
It is.
We're going to investigate that?
Yes, and I would just add to the point that I at first did not think that Hochul could be as corrupt as Cuomo. She just might need more time. So let's not give her any more time.
I
How about that? And I have to tell you, when you look at the lieutenant governor candidate,
He went out quicker than anybody.
6 months gone.
Great judgment.
For corruption and fraud. That
Great
was her,
judgment
that was
by
her first
Kathy.
major thing.
Seems like she's drawn to people who are corrupt like her.
And now you look at the Buffalo Bills stadium deal. You can just replace Bill Hochul with Hunter Biden, and America can understand exactly what went on.
They're following the leader.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew, here's pure common sense. This is the show about. New York, 220 billion. Florida, 98 billion. 1 million more people in Florida. And Florida doesn't have a New York City that's spending more than Florida.
Yeah, that's right.
And New York is in no better shape. And the poor people in New York are no better off than they were 50 years ago. Why is that? Because they're stealing the money.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party's been in control for so long, it's crooked as hell. And the leader, all she really cares about is getting that money to her husband.
Yeah.
And the damn press doesn't cover it.
No. Look, my mother-in-law told me this before she passed away.
Your mother-in-law lived under communism, which is where they're trying to take us.
For 46 years of her
Yes.
life. And she told me very clearly that the media in the United States today reminded her more of Pravda than it did of Free Press.
How true is that?
It's beyond scary, but honestly, it motivates me every day. When I think about my Grace, when I think about your granddaughter, you did everything that you could, and successfully, amazingly successfully, may I add, to hand over a better city and a better state and a better country to me and to my generation. It's going to be my job to make sure I do everything I can to hand over a better state and a better country to Grace's generation.
So what do you say about you're too young and you're too inexperienced?
Well, I would just look at a couple of very clear things. My work 4 years for President Trump in the White House, working on the Paycheck Protection Program, working on the opioid task force, which is very close to my heart,
by the way.
working on his regulatory reform agenda,
Big success.
refunding the money that was taken out of the 9/11 health fund because the New York State taxpayer identification numbers were commingled, which was at fault of New York State specifically. These are things that we worked tirelessly on. And then I would look at the general point on this. Alexander Hamilton, 23 years old, he was at Washington's aide-de-camp in the Revolutionary War. Thomas Jefferson, 27 years old, when he signed the Declaration of Independence and wrote the Declaration of Independence. Teddy Roosevelt, the youngest governor in over 200 years in New York, at 38 years old. I would surpass him by a few months. If we looked at youthful energy.
You mean you'd be basically the same age as Teddy Roosevelt?
Not bad company to keep, huh?
One of our greatest governors? One of our greatest presidents? It isn't about age. It's about what you got inside. It's about what you got inside. And when people listen to this, can't you see the enthusiasm that makes this happen? The charisma that makes this happen? This happens with charisma. It happens when you can go into a community and you can say, your assemblyman is screwing you by not voting for lower taxes. This is how much money you're going to go get. Go tell them to vote for it.
Yeah.
You know something? You break apart a political party that way.
Yeah.
Kennedy did it. Reagan did it. Trump did it. And I did it.
Yep.
And a couple of other Republicans I'm going to bring to your attention, like Governor Thompson in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. It isn't brain surgery.
Yeah.
It's commitment, courage, and honesty. And that's in short supply in politics. And General Flynn was 100% right. He came out all by himself and he said, I know Andrew, I work with Andrew. I know Zeldin, I work with Zeldin. There's no choice here. Andrew can turn this state around because of what I've seen. The other guy should go back to country. Everybody who takes the time to listen to you says, this guy's made for what we need right now.
Yeah.
He's not afraid. The minute you're afraid, you don't change anything. He believes he can do it. He's got great role models for doing it. And you can see in his personality, nothing's going to stop him.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you, and I feel so fortunate. I'm proud of your mother, too.
Thank you.
You know, this articulate ability doesn't come off from me. She's an excellent radio and television broadcaster. And she's also a woman of principle.
Oh, well,
she's not a radio broadcaster who just reads. She covers what she believes in.
Yeah.
And but she has a fabulous gift for communication.
You know, I'm honored to have an incredible mother and an incredible father who have inspired me, hopefully, to be an incredible father to my Grace. And, you know, here comes the pitch right now. I'm asking New Yorkers, if you are not in New York, but you have friends in New York, please call and vote on June 28th, this Tuesday, June 28th, because we need to save New York for my daughter's generation, for our children's generation. And we can do it. This is not something that's just an idea that's out there. There's a concrete plan, and we can do it fast too. But I need you to come on out and vote on Tuesday, June 28th for me. And if we do that, we will make New York great again, truly.
So we put up on the screen the notice about June 28th, the notice about sending him money, even at the last minute, a little more time on media, a little more time on social networking. We don't take a chance. If you have the time, get people out. This is a pull election. I don't know, maybe we could get 25% of Republicans. That'll be big, by the way. You win this based on who has the enthusiasm. He's got the enthusiasm, but don't take it for granted. Go out and get the vote. Not long ago, Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and his team fit me for my very own MyPillow. They also introduced me to their wide assortment of other incredible products, like their mattress topper, their sheets, towels, slippers, and more. Sleep is incredibly important to me, and I can assume for all of you. It's time you give MyPillow a try and see for yourself. Listeners have helped build MyPillow into the incredible company it is today, and Mike Lindell wants to give back to all of you. You can get great discounts on MyPillow products by going to mypillow.com right now and seeing each of the specially priced items, including those in the radio listener special square. You're going to see rotational offers up to 66% off on products like their pillows, mattress topper, Giza sheets, but also new products like their slippers, weighted blankets, robes, and waffle blankets. All MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Enter promo code RUDY for these great specials. That's mypillow.com and use the promo code RUDY.